indexing and slicing. So let's talk about the indexing. So we know np.arange, right? So we know that how it is going to generate the numbers. So starting from 30 up to 13 to 30 means 30 is excluded. So since we already discussed at length, I'm not going to spend much time here. So let's quickly generate the numbers. So these are our numbers, right? So now if I want to access the 7th index element, not the 7th element, 7th index element. So when I say 7th index, we should understand it starts from 0. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right? Just like how we perform this kind of operations during a Python list. So similarly, whichever data you want to access, so you just need to give the index numbers. Now, if I want to access the range of data, 3 to 6, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I want the data, right? Array 3 to 6. So start from 3 and up to 6. 6 is excluded. 16, 17, 18 will be, those data will be fetched based on the index. Now let's talk a couple more examples. ARR, that is our array, starting from 4. Here I'm not giving anything. This is empty. Empty means what? Everything. Everything means until last. If I'm leaving blank on right hand side, right? If I'm leaving blank on left hand side, so start from 0. Right? So let's execute this. So if you want to store that data, you can just assign one variable. To that, the result will be assigned to the new variable. If you want to store it, if you don't want to store it, that is fine. So this is the data starting from 4th index up to last. Same concept. Now let's try to understand different slicing techniques here. Let me print the original array. This is the one we have generated. So now here I have ARR, that's array. So this is a little tricky, but it is not difficult. -1 colon -2. I did mention about this in the previous videos, lectures, that as soon as it see -2, it understands that, okay, I have to fetch the data from backward direction. But what is this? This is a step size. And this is the end point. And this is the starting point. So now what is starting point now? So this is going to be the starting point, 29. And what is the end point? End point is blank here. It means that everything. But how do I fetch the data? With step size -2. Means this one and the next second element, next second element, next second, and so forth. So let's execute this. Right? 29, 27, 25, and so forth. Starting from -1. -1 is the very last element. So some of the students will get confused with the 0, right? And -1. So why can't we have a -0 here, right? So no, when you are coming from backward direction, so it has to be -1, the very first element. All right. Fine. Now let's try to understand one more example. If you did not get this concept, let's try to look into this example. So I'm saying this is the array -1 colon -8 colon -1. Now we have to interpret it. So -1, obviously the step size. So whenever I say -1, it has to start from backward direction. So now what is the starting point? Starting point is -1. Obviously this point. And end point is -8. So -1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Obviously endpoint is excluded. So yes, up to here. And what is the step size? -1. By default, it will be -1. Still, we have mentioned -1. Yes, all the elements will be returned. Let's execute this, right? 29, 28, 27 up to 23 because -8 is excluded. Very simple trick, right? All right. So the different, basically different slicing techniques. Forward direction, we knew already about that. And backward direction is something you need to understand a little different. -1 means, yeah, from backward direction. Now, let's create one more array here. So I'm using a range and 0 to 20 with step size 2. However you want to generate, you can generate. So here I used 2 step size. Now I'm going to take this. So here we have seen different ways of slicing the data, like starting from 1 up to last, or maybe starting from 3 to 20. Right here, this is basically what? Some kind of a range we are trying to give. But what if I want to access data, particularly this data, and this data? You know, customized data, I would say. Or I would say selective data, selective elements. In that case, I cannot say 2:10 or 3:5, something like that. It doesn't work because it is going to fetch the data between 2 and 10. That the requirement is I want one data here and this one and the other one. So in that case, how do I write my slicing technique? So I will take this colon. I'm going to pass the index numbers as a list. We know how to select a particular element. Similarly, I'm going to pass the index numbers in the list. That is the only difference. You see this array? This is the main square bracket. In that, I have a list of index numbers. I want the data at index number 4, comma, at index number 2, 4, and index number 9th element I want. So whichever data you want, you have to pass those index numbers in the list. Now it is going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So number 2, yeah, this guy, 4, this guy, 9, this guy. 4, 8, and 18 data will be fetched. Let's execute. Right? 4, 8, 18. Selective data fetching. All right. Now let's create one matrix here. I will continue until mat here for now. Mat. So this is basically my underscore mat. This we have already generated. Basically, I'm trying to create a matrix. Nothing new I'm doing here. Simple matrix. So now question is, in this matrix, how do I select the data? We have seen the various techniques, right? So this is then an array. In this, I have used different techniques to slice the data. But when it comes to matrix, how do I select the data? I want this data, something like that. I want this data only, right? So there are ways that we can fetch data from the matrix. So now let's try to understand. This is our original matrix. Now here I'm saying mat, this mat is nothing but this original matrix. First one I'm saying 1, and again I'm saying 2. What does it mean? The very first one is again same concept, rows, and second one is column. Now let's try to understand this. So here what I'm going to do, I'm going to assign index here 0, 1, 2. When I say assigning index, so behind the scene these indexes are assumed. Row wise 0, 1, 2, column wise 0, 1, 2. Now what I'm saying in the matrix, first row, what is the first row? This guy. This will be selected. Fine, that is done. In that first row, I want second column data, second column element. What is the second column here? 0, 1, 2. So 6. So I am going to fetch number 6 here. You see how we are trying to access this. First I'm selecting row. Whenever I want to select 9, first I have to select this particular row here and the respective column number, column index, let me put that. So this is basically the column, right? So now let's try to understand with one more example. We'll try to work on a couple more examples. If you did not get this concept, so no worries, we are going to work on a couple more examples. You will be able to understand in that example. Now let's print this our original matrix. Now let's say mat of 2. Mat of 2 means what? 0, 1, 2. So very first one is what? Row only. If there is nothing after 2, so it means it is a row. Second row. This data will be fetched. 7, 8, 9. This is the second row. Right? Then what about this? So mat colon. This is, things are getting a little different now. Sorry about that. So colon, and I'm having a comma and one column. So these numbers can be different. These numbers can be different depending upon the requirement. So here we are trying to understand different ways of accessing data from the matrix. So now let's say here I have a comma in the matrix. So here again you have to interpret, if I'm using a comma, please understand, if I am using this comma, it means that before the comma, whatever you are going to fetch, that is related to row only. And after the comma, the data will be fetched based on this column index. So row and column. So again, I would say that same concept, colon. Here I have just colon, but I don't have anything starting point and end point. You just need to split this problem statement into two. Like, give me a second. So I'm using a comma. Before the comma, what I have? I have a colon. In this column, I don't have the starting number or ending number. It means that what? Everything on row wise, all the elements in all the rows, right? So what we will do, we will execute this, then we'll come back and interpret this example. this particular code we'll discuss, right? So that it will be easy to understand. Now let's finish first one. So as I mentioned, this is pretty straightforward. Mat of 2, 0, 1 and 2. Second row. Yes, it is printed, which is perfectly fine. Now if I look into this, so this side row, all the rows I want. So it means that what? I will fetch everything. It means that I am going to fetch everything. There is no doubt about it. But after that, I have some filtration column side. In the column, I am saying starting from 1 up to last, means starting from 1, all the columns. So now if I assign index here 0, 1 and 2. So the starting index is 1 and up to last. So means there is no end point. It means that it is going to fetch everything. Now starting from 1 up to last. 2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 9. 2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 9. So however you want, you can play around with these numbers. And my suggestion is you have to keep changing these numbers. Write 1, 3, 1, 5. Obviously have to have a big matrix here because we don't have a fifth index, sorry, the columns. So you have to keep increasing this matrix and you can play around with these numbers. It's very interesting, and at the same time you will understand the different ways of accessing the data and how it is working. So this is one more way. Let's try to understand another way. Now let's print this matrix. Okay, so this is our matrix. This is our matrix. Now let's try to understand this. Almost same. So whoever did not get this, so we'll try to understand in this fashion. So mat 1, 2. So again I have a comma. It means that row data. Comma. So again 1, 2. So this is basically column data. So 1 to 2 means 1 is included, 2 is excluded. So it means that only the first index row I want. Only first index row. What is the first index row? 0, 1. So this guy. Right? So this is going to fetch what? 4, 5, 6. And column wise, so let me write this 4, 5, 6. So in this 4, 5, 6, I want the columns from 1 to 2. 2 is obviously excluded. It means that only the first column I want. When I say first column, index number 1. So again, it is split into 0, 1 and 2. What is the first column? First index column data, that is 5. Right? So yes, you will be able to fetch number 5 here. Right? So that's how you can interpret. If you change different numbers, accordingly it is going to fetch the data. 5, 8. So you can play around with these numbers however you want. So now let's try to understand one more way. So let's print the matrix. So here there are ways that we can access the data. We already know a few ways. Another way is, suppose say there is a requirement. You need rows, suppose say 0, 1, 2, right? So you want this full row data. In that you need a selective column numbers. Selective column numbers. So let's understand this one. Because if you pay attention, so this is the row, comma, right? So here it is a column. So if you look into this column section, right, Here I don't have any colon. I'm using again comma 1, comma 2. So it means that what? When I say 1, comma 2, it means that this is the selective data. This we have discussed individually. So we are trying to mix and match. So here I'm giving a range of rows, and here I am selecting particular column data or elements. So let's execute this, then once again we will interpret. Now how did we get this? Now first understand this part. 0 to 2, so row wise 0, 1 and 2. 0 to 2 means 2 is excluded, so it will fetch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. This part is done. Comma, here I am saying selective column index data 1 and 2. So this is 0. Let me change this to different color. This is 0, 1 and 2. So I am saying column 1, okay, column 1, then comma column 2. 2, 3, 5, 6. If I change it to colon, so I would have fetched only 2, 5. Right? A slight change here. So you have to be really careful when you are accessing or slicing the data. So we have discussed different ways of slicing the data here. Right? And remember, all the parts are connected. Whenever I say this part, right, selecting a particular index data, you have to pass that as a list. See, I am passing it as a list. Right? So that is the idea here. Now say that, let's print this matrix. Suppose I wanted to update. This is the original matrix. I want it to update. Say that I want to update particular cell, particular spot data. So you have to first select that spot. Right? So now I'm saying mat 0th row, comma, first column. 0th row, first index column. 0th index row, first index column. At that spot, in that cell, I want to update whatever the data, doesn't matter. I want to change it to 35. So here basically you are pointing that cell. It could be this or this or this or this, we don't know. So based on the requirement, based on your selection, it will be pointed to that cell. So here I am pointing it to 0th row. So this is the 0th row. And first column. So this is the first column. So this spot I am choosing. At this spot, I want number 35. So I am going to update it, and if I print it, yes, in this spot I will be able to update it to 35. If I want to update data over here, so I will choose this row, that is row 1, comma, which column index it is 0. Right? So I will be able to, let's execute this if you did not get that. So give me a second. So I will say mat first column, comma, 0th index. So 0th first row index and 0 index in the column column wise. So I want this to be 100. Right? So let's print this. So yes, you will be able to update this guy. This is the first row index and this is the 0th column index, right? First, comma, 0. So this way you can choose any element, any spot here, and you can give your desired data.